papers at national and international seminars. She's a regular contributor to research articles and papers to anthologies and national and international journals of repute. There are some, which I'm not really naming right away. Her poems have been anthologized and published in Setu and many others. And she's also translated Rasundari Dashi's Amar Jibon, a comprehensive study, Ashpriyasha, which has been translated into Bengali, a novel by Sharon Kumar Limbale. She's also a reviewer, another one, a poet and a critic. And you also mentioned that you won the... Yeah, she was nominated for the Best of the Net in 2020 for her poem. Welcome, Shitanyuka.
Should I stand and say?
No, you sit is fine.
Good evening. It's an honor and pleasure to be here. And before I begin my poems, let me tell that I don't have a poetry book yet, trying to come out with one. And mostly I live and sleep with the poets. That means, I try to read in between. And all the controversy, yes, I know, some are smiling. I wanted to, come out of that controversy. So that's what my job is now, reviewing books, poetry books, and all the controversy regarding... Went out?
Is it? Yeah.
Okay. So tradition first. I'll start the evening with a kind of tribute to my tummy, my grandmother, whom I never saw. Whatever, I heard from my Baba, I have tried to conjure a story on that. Okay, write a story on that. So the first poem I read, it's titled Spring in My Grandma's Closet. Does it remind her of the chelly she draped as a child bride? Sunlight peeps through the window. She giggles. Her bare gum protrudes. The breeze ruffles her white mane. Grandma falters a step or two. She gathers her thorn and soft bones as she enters the veranda, clutching the railing. Granny cranes her neck to find a primrose waving at her. And for those of you who stay outside Kolkata, Cheli is a small sari owned by little girls during marriage in the olden times in Bengal. And Than is a, borderless white sari the widows wear. And since I have started with tummy, let me take you all through my childhood. And, childhood is full of paper boats. Okay, so this next poem is Paper Boat. Rain-drenched summer afternoon, splashing water from the puddles along the sidelines of an unknown lane. The storm-tossed umbrella, I watched the journey of the clouds, a kadamba flower, mutter the wet closure of the day. A paper boat carries my half-baked dreams, half-formed stories on the palette of language to the rainbow. This brings me to the third poem, which is called Elemental. Born of earth, a wing said, nostrils full of body odor, I weave an earthly civilization. Born of air, needing the azure sky, I whisper into the ears of Shundari and Hital trees. Born of fire, I burn my frame in the ghats of Manikarnika, sprinkle the ashes over the ruins of Lothal, and walk barefoot down the course of ancient Sabarmati. Born of water, a blue hyacinth, I listen to the daily chores of grey heron and little egret. The water chestnut touches the navel. The feet touch the step well of yoked desires. I am waiting for tomorrow's rainbow. And my last poem for today, Freedom. You know, there was a time when I did not even write a single line. You know, for years I was like that. I was totally being silenced. And now I have, you know, achieved freedom. So this poem is called Freedom. Over the years, I died almost every day. Each death drew loud applause, no tears. My hearse walked alone. I befriended the crematorium. My bones softened. Ashes immersed in the Ganga. I am free. I now live. Thank you all. And I'm extremely grateful to each one of you, you know, from the poets from whom I learn a lot. Thank you all. And thank you, Gayatri, for having me over here.
Thank you. Really beautiful poems and striking images. So the next poet, who's also a bit of a hurry and come from Trivandrum, is Gopi Krishnan Kottur. Please come up. So he is award-winning poet and has published 18 collections of poems. I don't know how one does that. He has been published in India and abroad, and his poetry has been translated and published in German. Works include plays, translations from Malayalam, Ramanam by Changapuza, okay, and novels A Bridge Over Karma, Emperor Banana of USSSBE, Uzbi. Gopi Krishnan is founder of Poetry Chain, which many of you know, and has edited Living Poetry, 7 Kerala poets writing in English, and a new book of Indian English poems. His plays include The Mask of Death and The Nectar of the Gods. He is former senior banker at the Reserve Bank of India. Gopi Krishnan runs an online poetry portal, Chipmunk, which you're all invited to join. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Gayatri and Anju, for this kind consideration of having me here all these days. The first poem, I've taken over about 5 or 6 poems, and they run into 6 or 7 minutes, but if they cross, please tell me. Seashells is one of the poems. Somewhere along the way, these words fell from your lips. They became shells beside my sea. I washed them with my waves every time I could, till they, in all their brilliant shine, made a carpet on the shore. But what's a colored carpet of shells upon the seashore? They that have lost all flesh and blood, and all that glitter is death. The second is one called Optical Illusion. Too many nights I have been staring hard at the shadow on the wall. They say that if you stare hard enough, the face will slowly form in the mind. The one hidden that is now nowhere. The face that once filled all the skies, the face that withdrew from my eyes. How is it that from nowhere, now you look out at me from everywhere? As though there was nothing all the time, I kept searching to find you anywhere on the shadow on the wall. Thank you. Third one is called So Many Nightingales Later. So many nightingales later, all my nights, you still sing secretly to me. What have I done, wrong or right, that you still come to me to die when I open my eyes? How you come, lifting me in the song you made with your laughter, with your smile and tears that still turns snow in my eyes. The fourth one, thank you. The fourth one is called Words. Words will grow in their poetry nest. They will open their pink, yellow throats wide, thinking that even the passing breeze in which their mother wafts in is delicious worm. All fed with love, soon they will fly out one by one into the fathomless sky. Out there, the world is wide. Each word will spread its feather. Such is that flying pleasure. Each word soaring up into the skies, forgetting earth. The fifth one is called Singing Birds. They have killed me inside of you. I was not prepared. Now I wait outside for my body, pretending to the world that nothing has happened to me. The music that rises in the eyes of the blind. The emptiness of riverbeds that have known the embrace of water that flowed without end. Inside of you, you keep looking for a place to hide my ashes. Now I know the pain of singing birds. This one is called How to Make Love, which was read yesterday, and more than one person came and told me it was nice. So I'm just reading it here again. How to make love. Just enough spices, a few herbs, a fragrance of leaves that stirs up the appetite. The freshness of things washed clean, their colors luminous in the water. Small amounts of salt, a little sugar, so little that it will bring on the taste in all its wildness. And then the bodies gently tossed over. Over all that fire, the steam, the language of bubbles that burst without words. Now it's nearing order as things press closer, tighter than thought, turning it all one. And then the sip from the spoon that will soon become memory, that slowly drawn inward kiss, breathing good night. The seventh one is called The Wrong Street. I took the wrong street. There was a river, a path filled with flowers. There were ferns as though feathers of a bird in heady romance, spread all over the mountain slopes. The sun was bagpiper, all merriment upon the stones. The wind upon the water, all day, picked diamonds in the sheath. The fruits wept red upon the fruit trees. It was as though I could forget and forget, just lingering here a while, and perhaps even die. I took the wrong street, and I fell in love. The cuckoo clock, I'm just getting off. Cuckoo clock, your lips shut, a cuckoo in a cuckoo clock. Too soon, too fast. Your laughter ticks to a standstill. What time is it now? Not too sure, but it is yesterday again. The flowering. No, I will stop. I will just have one more poem and I'll stop. Old Portuguese houses, Chorao, Goa. One by one, they swim into view with their glinting beggary of broken walls, forever shut doors, crippled termite lattices opening out into weeded patios where the sunlight and the rain have turned bosom thieves. The wind holds the key to abandoned fragrances of lacrimal moss, mourns the disquiet of nudes in the disrobing of camouflages, splashing them down to unabashed decrepitude. Choked voices foretell of the forbidden air as a desolate light, limping eyeless among wood and bone, strangles the weathering stones. Roots clutch, tightening as hands around a sleeping throat, their clawing wounds in relief along the river's glassy shoreline. Torn curtains upskirt in the breeze, trailing the burning wounds inside of what was once nectar. Bruised, the stones here now breathe in the wildness of forest flowers, in a descent of forsaken calls of invisible birds, as across the sleeping terrain, the climbing sepia mirrors in each wafting leaf. A disengaged lip lock, poured out wine, and the last supper of all that turn quieter than gods in brightly lit prayer rooms. Thank you. I hope I haven't taken more.
I was saying one could listen to him all evening, but we have time constraints. So our next poet, who's also in a bit of a hurry, Geeta Ravichandran. Happy to have you. And Geeta Ravichandran worked, you can maybe, as a bureaucrat for more than 3 decades. She has been scribbling her life away, writing mills for Deccan Herald, contemplative articles for Mountain Path, journal published by Ramanam Ashram, and 2 books of poetry, both published by Red River. The stories of the ordinary and often overlooked find their way into her work. Poetry has remained a constant in her peripatriarch life. She considers raising 2 strapping young men, both of whom are software developers, as a major accomplishment. She now lives in Chennai with her husband and a 92-year-old mother, and promises to be a very active member of the poetry fraternity from now on. Thank you.
Thank you, Gayatri. Thank you, Anju, for this opportunity. I'm really happy to be here. And I'll read from 2 of these books which I've published recently. Both have come out about one 2 years ago and one just a year ago. So the first poem I'm reading is from my first book, Arjavam. The title of the poem is Father's Funeral. As the pot was struck and the ashes strewn, the waves frolicked and the frothing ocean welcomed the end of another earth-born, bone-weary being. The sun shone unconcerned, and the burning sand scalded our bare souls. The horizon rolled away into the blue beyond. It wrenched the heart to say goodbye, but it seemed that morning was banished on the beach. As waves lapped our feet and the wind blew our faces dry, right there beside us, fluttering on fragile wings, was a startling golden butterfly. This is the first one. The second is on chapati. Chapati, I've lived in Bombay almost 14 years of my life. So this is the very famous chapati of Bombay. The grey walls run all the way around, bar the sea, smother what might have been a beach. And in the rains, fronds of waves reach almost to the road, spew froth, crash, and rise. This great bazaar of a city lies under sheets of tarpaulin, shacked up behind musty walls. The sun, the most deja vu of them all, unfailingly waits for the smog-laden clouds to part, to pour its evaporation. It's then that the pigeons close in to peck and preen in pockets of sand the receding waves create, rife with human refuse, which neither land nor sea can escape. And yet the pigeons carve a bit of time to picnic in the shifting sands of Chowpatty. Walking beside the sea and thundering road, there's a catch in the breeze. The world stops for a moment, sandwiched between two lights, the one red, the other amber, and while cars strain their leash, the asphalt breathes the lull and waves rustle. The city holds this silence to its heart as sparks fly about the cobs of corn, fanned by gnarled hands. This is the second one. The last poem from this book is called Purnamidam, which I think all of us are familiar with that verse. When I told you that I thought this beautiful Sanskrit mantra actually talks of love, you said it's chanted in the burning ghats when water is sprinkled and the bed of flaming logs consume all dreams and desires. Maybe love is just a crackle that sends sparks flying which singe as they settle. But the memory that breathes in the ashes feels so real. In specks of warmth, the mind heals to a wholeness. So this is the first book, and I'll just read a couple of poems from the second. That's my most recent book, which was out in August. This is called For Our Anniversary. After 29 years of raising a family, it's impossible to exchange sweet nothings. But I do have to make an effort not to grit my teeth when you bring me a bag of my favorite goodies, which includes the wine I gave up drinking 2 years ago. It's your exasperating kindness that stops my logical arguments. We have dragged ourselves through crisis to loss, from theater to forest trails, from separation to closure. Our life is like the overarching sweet sour tamarind tree that sways in the night air even as ghosts hang about its branches. So there's one more in this, which is called Hibernation. It's about a lot of things, about neurosis, climate change, memories, everything all mixed up. Father complained about the chill in winter, about the sun in summer, and about Bombay all the time. Nothing could match the wonders of Mylapore. Mylapore is a small part in Chennai, it's a temple, whatever district. His sonorous complaints chime unfailingly after all these years. Maybe it's the thyroid. I wear a warm shrug on a sunny day to keep the virus of cold far away just in case. The Bluetooth speaker fills me with ragas of Carnatic music, and I pick my way past dug-up roads and corrugated sheets to hunt down a bottle of a hot, spicy mango pickle in Little Madras. On Google Maps, all roads look alike, only the names are a dead giveaway. Instant coffee, not the decoction kind, and that slowly trickles in an old-fashioned filter, and 24/7 air conditioning is all that's there to navigate weather changes. The years shuffle past as time tiptoes noiselessly. Outside, breezy boats soak up the warmth of a reluctant December. And this is the last. This is based on the city I live in now, Chennai. So Chennai is my home, where I grew up, and it's a place which I love and hate at both at the same time. A mesh of buildings stakes out theaters, hospitals, malls, slums, domes, spires, flyovers, luxe housing, interspersed among green mobs of forgotten trees, and thrive in the once lush green paddy fields. The city built itself as all this and more happened. In the narrow temple lanes, faith shrivels, jostled by vendors peddling flowers, photos, good luck charms, while the discontented sink the city's skyline in smog, encroaching the once spongy swamp where waterbirds nested, as emission and radiation rain down and hard-working sewers strive to contain the assault of spilling odors. A funeral procession winds its way on a flower-strewn path as drums beat to keep pace with the ritual dancers. Ghouls who steal dreams prowl all over the streets. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Geeta, and for bringing alive those everyday images that we have in such a delightful way. Our next poet is Ranu Unyal. She is professor and former head, Department of English, University of Lucknow. She was a Commonwealth scholar at the University of Hull, UK, and author, editor of 10 books. Her articles and book reviews have been published widely. Her poetry has appeared in Cordite Poetry Review, Mascara Literary Review, and many others, very widely published, which I'm not going to read everything, in India and abroad, of course. She has published 3 poetry collections across the divide in 2006, December Poems 2012, and The Day We Went Strawberry Picking in Scarborough 2018, which was translated into the Spanish in 2020. Her book of Hindi poems, Saida Ke Ghar, was published in 2021. Ranu's poems have been translated into German, Hindi, Oriya, Malayalam, Marathi, Spanish, Urdu, and Uzbek languages. She is author of Woman and Landscape, the fiction of Margaret Drabble and Anita Desai. Raja Rao's Kanthapura, co-edited in 2007, Women in Indian Writing from Difference to Diversity, 2009, Reading Gandhi Perspective, which is a recent collection in the 21st century, which she co-edited. Mahatma Gandhi Essays on Life and Literature, which she also co-edited. Forthcoming by Springer this year is Understanding Disability, Interdisciplinary Critical Approaches. She is chief editor of Rhetorica, which she mentioned a while ago in the discussion, a literary journal of arts, University of Lucknow, and a founding member of PYSSUM, PYSUM, an organization for people with special needs in Lucknow. Very warm welcome.
Thank you, Gayatri. Thank you, Anju, for inviting me to Pondicherry Literature Festival. It's a wonderful event, and I must say it's very different. Unlike other poetry festivals where there is too much of bureaucracy at the back, I think here we have poets and the spirit of Sri Aurobindo and Mother. And that's simply superb. It's so elevating. This poem was written soon after the fall of Bamiyan Buddha, and it was published in 2006. It's a prose poem. The title is A Dust Storm in the Middle of the Night. It was one dark yellow evening, and the stars had gone inside the shell, and the sky, shameless but proud of its early naked flesh, opened its arms for the moon to recline. Nothing stirred in the winds, as if there were enough sins to wrap around the earth, distant and quiet, had enough of blood, sweat, and tears to cope with. There on that daring night, not out of nowhere, but from the hungry bellies of pregnant mothers, from the uneven mouths of half-clad children, the disembodied spirits of the young who had been raped on the nights when her husband was not around, the silent fire of Godhra, the unshed tears of Bamiyan Buddha, the blasts at the trains, ripped nameless bodies, lost in the acts of vengeance, unaccounted tales but few to narrate. Sullied wombs gripped with fatigue and tireless determination to hang on to life, to nature, to Mother Earth, to mothers of all the fathers, sons, soldiers, statesmen, to all who had once been inside her womb, a burning question, a haunting disquiet. How often will history repeat itself, leaving her to write another script without rain, without sunshine? This is from my second collection, December poems, Ahilya to Ram. I was once young and beautiful until I turned a stone and hit my forehead on the clumsy grass, hallowed and brown. I stumbled and lost my form and face. I turned my speech into ashes and withheld my sighs. How easy to hurt the woman who was cheated by gods. Deceit and pride did anger invite, such shame and loss is mine. Aged with envy and unmindful distrust, he crossed my legs and left me with a curse, until the gods intervened and I came back to life. But was it the same husband that I aspired for? The same house with its cropped up mats? No, I choose to be a stone, than a mate to a man whose eyes believed what he could not see. Yes, I'd rather be a stone that leaves neither aches nor flutters. I carry within a heaviness that has curled with the weight of their angry feet, and elsewhere sticks like an old habit. Without form, without face, and ashes for speech, hey Ram, I am now quite uncomfortable with the knowledge of knowing a curse would soon fall on her who stands beside you in these troubled times. This one is in the company of women. I'm often asked, why is it that I prefer being in the company of women? Not all, but certain women I prefer. Let this be clear. For years they have slogged to keep themselves warm and pen happy. Warts or boils, corns and aches, they refuse to shudder. Sights and smells travel far, and with them I have seen my own sadness tumble and dissolve into a mist of hope. I become perky and young. Forget my swollen thighs and cauterized uterus. A healthy camaraderie exists between us, flits and warms me inside out. Tucking in the fragrance of jasmine and basil, we become whole and lovely all at once. Between us, slabs of silence rip open prolonged secrets that were ashamed to be rinsed. We lean on each other's arms and often lend a tear or two. We make a pillow of shredded promises and laugh in sleep. No, we do not speak the same dialect, but we do share the calligraphy of the heart, however quiet, however crumbled. We learn to draw from dried up wells, and hence we multiply our joys. We're talking of academia, and poetry. I think this particular poem, At Falak Numa, is about that experience with the academics. At Falak Numa. She has been good at it, mixing it with honey and a bit of lemon to the elderflower juice, and then she lets it stay. 1/3 of it is added to champagne, and lo, what a drink. The taste of it is better than the best, and the rest is laid on the table. In her youth, she enjoyed the sound and the smell, the amniotic saga of the bells in harmony with their laughter, and the reading of poems, long-awaited vowels slipped from the cushions, scattered, randomly smelling of cardamom. Strange evenings wore off with unobtrusive sighs and often ended up with boring women, some of them famous as TV professors. It is always mandatory to follow the chanterelle outlining grace. There she was surrounded by consonants, clusters of them, beating their hearts out, and she had to stop them with a faint clutch from spilling all over the patio, where men lured by a drink would wickedly exchange a pat or two. She had the comfort of knowing once eutropic bellies had long been a waste and would now falter and were incapable of regenerating the floor with crackling tails. What remains now is just the bleeding earth, pining to replenish her soil, her limbs, and her tired mouth with a drink she has never heard of. I think I'll conclude with 2 poems in Hindi, because I'm not a Hindi poet, but I write in Hindustani, which is a blend of Urdu and Hindi. I come from Lucknow, and Lucknow as a city is known for its Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb. फोटो सच नहीं होती, फोटो सच नहीं होती, जैसे कि लड़कियां सच नहीं होती। दोनों ही पहनती हैं कई मुखौटे और बाहर से नरम पर अंदर भीगी होती हैं दोनों। बगैर बारिश के ही भीग जाती हैं वो और हो जाती हैं सर्द। फोटो सच नहीं होती, होती हैं कैद दोनों ही, एक कैमरे में तो दूसरी समाज में, और जरा भी ध्यान भटका तो बिगड़ जाती हैं वो कुछ इस तरह से कि फिर समेटा ना जा सके। बहुत नाजुक होती है फोटो लड़कियों की तरह, बंद होती है एल्बम में और जब तब परोस दी जाती है इसके उसके लिए। हर फोटो की होती है अपनी एक कहानी हर लड़की की तरह, पर कहती है बस थोड़ा ही लड़की उस फोटो की तरह। दबी रहती हैं कितनी ही सिसकियां उस लड़की के अंदर, पर बाहर से मुस्कुराती है वो फोटो की तरह। फोटो कुछ नहीं कहती और लड़की भी कुछ बोलती नहीं। घुट जाती है लड़की अपनी ही फोटो तले और बंद हो जाती है फोटो भी किसी दराज के अंदर कभी ना खुलने के लिए। पड़ी रहती है लड़की घर के किसी कोने में बरस दर बरस, सिकुड़ी सिमटी शर्मसार, कोई देखे न देखे हो जाती है खामोश, पड़ जाती है पीली उस फोटो की तरह। भीतर से गुमसुम गमज़दा हो जाती है वो और पूछने पर कि कैसी हो तुम, वो खिलखिला उठती है ऐसे जैसे रंगों से लबरेज हो जिंदगी की हर शाम। दिलों में कैद हो जाती है उसकी हंसी और दरख्तों में छिप जाते हैं उसके आंसू। पत्तों के बीच से उभर कर आती है उसकी मासूमियत, पर लड़कियां सच नहीं होती फोटो की तरह, और फोटो भी जानती है लड़कियां सच नहीं होती उसकी तरह। One poem on a lighter note, and the title of this is Pati. It's on a lighter note. ऐसा तो हो नहीं सकता कि एक पसंद नहीं तो दूसरा उठा लो, उस कविता या किताब की तरह जो रख दी जाती है कुछ घंटों या कभी कुछ मिनट के बाद ये कहकर कि जमी नहीं। ऐसा तो हो नहीं सकता कि एक ना पचे तो दूसरी बना लो, उस रोटी की तरह जो कच्ची थी शायद, तभी ना घी चुपड़कर पराठा बना लिया और दही के साथ गटक गए। ऐसा तो हो नहीं सकता कि एक ना फिट हो तो दूसरी सिला दो, उस सलवार की तरह जो ऑर्डर तो की थी सादी पर बन गई पठान। वो तो बस एक ही है, सदा एक सा, एक तरफा, एक बाजू, मेरा आधा या मैं उसकी आधी। वो पूरा तो मैं पूरी, वो अधूरा तो मैं आधी, अध जगा अध सोया पर सिर्फ एक। ऐसा तो हो नहीं सकता कि एक पसंद ना हो तो दूसरा उठा लो, पूरा या आधा है तो बस वही एक, जो मुझसे और मैं उससे भर पाए या भरपूर। थैंक यू।
Thank you, Ranu, for those poems, very powerful and on such, important topic, even the last one. So it's my pleasure then to call the next poet on stage, Urna Bose, who conducted a very important workshop this morning. And she is an award-winning advertising professional, writer, poet, editor, and reviewer. Her poetry has gone viral globally. She won the Enchanting Editor Award 2019 from the Telangana Poetry Forum and Woman Empowered Scintillating Creative Impactful Feminine Power Inspiration Award 2020. She also won the prestigious NISM International Prize for Poetry 2021. As the deputy editor of Different Truths, she also devotes her time to the Poet to Poet column. Urna has been the brainchild behind a vast body of iconic advertising campaigns and brand work. Her campaigns have won both Indian and global creativity awards, and some are even industry case studies. She believes that soulful poetry and gooey chocolate cake can fix everything. Welcome, Urna. Oh, yes. Sorry.
So good evening, everyone. First and foremost, of course, thank you to Anju ma'am and Gayatri ma'am for this absolute honor and this absolute pleasure. It's an humbling experience. This is my first, can you hear me? Okay. This is my first time at the Pondicherry Auroville Poetry Festival, and I think this festival has a lot of soul. So obviously it goes to the architects and the founders. And also a very big thank you to all of you who are seated here today, because when poets read poems, it takes a lot to give, but it also takes a lot to receive. So thank you so much for receiving. So we've been talking about AI and Chat GPT, and my first poem is about another machine. The reason why I'm reading this poem is because the age of the machines is not new for us humans. It started with the wheel, and right now we are talking about ChatGPT. Speaking of the wheel gave birth to the bicycle. And why is the bicycle as a machine very important? It's because, you believe it or not, the bicycle paved the way for women's liberation, women's emancipation. And because of the bicycle, women were actually able to go out and vote. So it's also pivotal for women's suffrage. And the reason why we wear the clothes that we wear today and not the heavy stuff like the bicycle was also the reason why women were able to shed off the heavy Victorian skirts and the corsets. Now, I will, in my poem, refer to this phrase called velocipedestrians. And velocipedestrians is basically the first female bicycle pioneers who kind of took to the bicycle. Some interesting things I just want to talk before I read my poem so that the poem resonates with you. In 1895, there was a society formed in New York of men who pledged never to speak to women who wear bloomers and therefore ride bicycles, right? So the serious offense is that women are taking to bloomers. So therefore you know that this paved history because we don't wear bloomers any longer. And two insidious rumors were circled around so that women stay off from bicycles. One was that a woman's innards will get rattled if she rides a bicycle. The second was that women may become bow-legged if you kind of ride the bicycle, none of which is true. So I just wanted to kind of tell you that because the poem has to make sense. And without the historical referencing and it won't make sense. So in the age of AI, I'm paying a tribute to one of the first machines, the bicycle. The poem is called My Bicycle is a Time Machine. My bicycle is a time machine, and me, a velocipedestrian, riding astride a black hole, crouched purple quicksand, smoke rings of paternity. In 1895, a dogged society forms in New York of men who solemnly pledge never to talk to bloomer-wearing women. And breeches are too close to that unshakable bastion of saccharine decay, trousers. Then what about the height of my hemline, mister? The not-so-coy 19th century equivalent of the chastity belt, the casus belli, trickling fickle, a this or a that, quickly shape-shifting in the war of the sexes, a djinn, a genie, a Houdini. Take your pick. With acid on my tongue, I declare to history's mysteries, the wheels of the bicycle. Do not rattle my innards. Unapologies for much more than rattling your spinal cord, oh so perpendicular. Unchaperoned, I ride. Sexual liberation, my pillion. Meanwhile, 1868 morphs into 2023, and labels are still consolation prizes. The fairer sex, a house of cards paper thin, ain't a compliment, a clever disguise for generational unfairness. My face now, a hard-wired snooze button. I chew your cud demurely. In India, a cow must be owned as must be a woman. Your masculinity purchased by another man, my father, for the dowry of a Mercedes-Benz. Of course, a boy must have his toy, you grin, spouting the virtues of hollow feminism. Overlooking equal pay at work is just math, a historical atonement for women's suffrage. Remember, honey, one can't have it all. You spit out. Mock jest. Its red beetle pichuk stains the fork in the road. My half grunt, half laughter, hot vapors of what you think is a woman's acceptance of your bullshit. FYI only. FYI only, I didn't get bow-legged from too much peddling. My feet didn't stop then, won't stop peddling now, ever. My second poem is also about, like we spoke about, AI, ChatGPT, and what it takes to write. And I personally feel that you can't be a writer unless you tunnel through the highways of craft. And I used to work for a brilliant agency, an advertising agency called R.K. Swami BBDO. And at a very young age, I learned something very brilliant. The baseline of the agency, of the network, BBDO network, was the work, the work, the work. So I think you can't fast track that. And unfortunately, if more and more younger poets or younger writers take the help of ChatGPT, they may be sacrificing the virtue of patience. And Nissim Ezekiel, in his poem, Poet Lover Birdwatcher, reminds us that the best poets wait for words. So patience can't be sacrificed. And my next poem is about what happens to us when we become robots, and do we have space for contemplation then? So it's called The Diary of a Robot. Of all the pleasures of life, leafing through old diaries is a labyrinthine one. A heat haze rising out of a tropical, inebriated siesta, or a phantom show of slides in a loop on a projector. Some days I look for the gun that reduced my rib cage to smithereens. Some days I'm looking to shapeshift into oblivion, negotiating a peace treaty with salty metaphors. Humans want to be robots, and robots want to be human again. Humans want to be robots, and robots want to be human again. Silicon Valley serves up a haloed phantasmagoria. A la carte, buffet, takeaway, home delivered. Sell your soul to the highest bidder. A casual tick mark to the cookie's notification when it pops up. Oh, so chatty and sweet. Remember to look away from the dagger stuck in the back pocket. And today, dear diary, I'm looking to gulp down a constellation coded seamlessly for cloud backup, a future-ready immortality with the wedge of a lemon for digestion and no condolences to fragility. I know we are running short of time, so I will just finish with one more poem. You know, poets stand on the shoulders of many other poets, all the poets who came before us. And all the poets who will come after us will stand on our shoulders. So it's a tradition, and we are custodians of poetry. So I think we have to leave little room for introspection and for thinking as ChatGPT moves on from ChatGPT 3 to 4 to 5. There is 4 already. And poetic integrity is a space for judgment, and it's personal judgment. You know, when you're writing, the judgment comes to you at that point in time. So it is a lot about your integrity. So this one is called Bones for Breakfast. Between you and me sits a belly. No head, no liver, no spleen. A fattened protrusion, its carnivorous cunning on an anonymous lease from the Venus flytrap. This belly's on an overdose of steroids. OD now, think later. Rehabilitate, never. Biting off in uncanny chunks, Wordsworth's limp, the flesh, red, warm, inviting. Tagore's wrist, marinated with care, enhunkered overnight. The tongue of Sylvia Plath on a bed of Bhut Jalokia. The thumb of Octavio Paz with a measured drizzle of soya sauce. The left eye of Kamla Das, comatose like a sorry dumpling. Nissim Ezekiel's hair, sun-dried with sea salt and sea breeze. The fibrous veins of Jivanananda Das, the calories uncounted, uncountable. the inner lining of this belly, a hive of invincibility, secreting the sweetened, addictive ego hormone. Nodes simulating neurons of yours and mine, slowly masticating the residue of meanness, you-ness, individualness, brokenness, enoughness, poetness. It's ChatGPT-2 exoskeleton working up an appetite for more and more and more. Ye pet mange more. Regurgitating metaphors, syntaxes, charcoaled cloned cadences. Try turning back the hands of time. Try turning back the hands of time, lament and mourn and grieve the burial of crafting a painstaking line, then another, and then another. Be warned. It'll spew its digestive enzymes and impatiently order the sternum and the femur, the shin bone and the tailbone of poets for breakfast. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Urna, and especially for bringing ChatGPT to this evening, which is, of course, our festival theme. It's my pleasure now to call Mallika Bhaumik, who was a nominee for the Pushcart Prize for Poetry in the year 2019. Her poetry, short stories, essays, articles, travelogue, and interviews have been published in various e-mags and journals, such as Kitab, Madras Courier, Outlook India, and many more, as well as Voice and Verse, edited by Tammy Ho. Please sit down. Yes. To name a few. A few of her poems are also about to be published in the Punch magazine by the end of 2023. The transliterated version of her essay, O Mahalaya, of Mahalaya, Memories and Moksha, originally published in the Chakkar, was featured in the Bengali daily Ei Shomoy in October 2022. She has received the Royal International Prize for a debut poetry book, Echoes 2017. Her second book of poems, How Not to Remember, was published in 2019. Her poems are part of the postgraduate syllabus English department at BBMK University, Dhanbad. She lives and writes from Kolkata. Welcome, Mallika.
Hello.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gayatri. Thank you for having me here. It's a lovely evening. I'll start with my poem, Closure. Now, you might wonder why closure, but just take it as